You know, no matter where you go on the internet, something is always going on. Whether if it's a community of people who's getting angry at something, two content creators with overinflated egos get mad at each other and have like an internet argument, usually happening on Twitter or Reddit, there's always something interesting going on. There is one topic that always comes back, like a reoccurring villain in the anime, where no matter how much the main hero gets rid of them, they somehow always find a way to crawl out of somewhere and just become the center of attention. And those two topics will usually be AI is one. Every couple of months, every YouTuber always talks about how fast it's advancing. And the second one is obviously our favorite app, Twitter. It's kind of like a monthly thing where you have to kind of keep up and see what Twitter is doing, what big mistake they made, and what horrible thing they're doing next. And this time, Twitter is now back in the center of attention, going with the good old Twitter Blue. Now, I think at this point, we all know what Twitter Blue is, and I don't really care enough to re-explain what it is again, because 95% of people know what it is. A terrible, absolute waste of money, and I literally don't know why anyone will spend time going on Twitter Blue. It has been proven multiple times by people who own Twitter Blue just to test it out, or even people who bought it because they generally thought it was going to be a good service. That is literally a waste of money, and it basically makes no sense for you to buy it. And ever since Twitter Blue ended up being made, the people on Twitter has literally been trying their hardest to make Twitter Blue actually important, and lead them to do absolutely goofy changes, like locking two-step verification behind Twitter Blue, or just doing something as simple as like if you want to edit a tweet, a feature that should be absolutely free, you have to go and pay money to do, which is just the dumbest thing of all time. Why do I have to go and pay money for something that I could do free on literally every other platform? But I'm not here to talk about that. I'm here to talk about the checkmark thing. A couple days ago on 420, insert joke about that day, the great Twitter purge ended up happening, and basically one of the first out of the two horrible changes that Twitter are making ended up releasing, and that is being that the legacy checkmark feature is basically going away. Basically, when Twitter Blue first came out, not everyone lost their checkmark. If someone was like relevant enough or had enough like followers, they were able to basically keep their checkmark. If you go on someone who was big enough, instead of them losing their checkmark, it will say that, oh, this is a legacy feature. Basically, they were important back in the day, so they don't have to worry about Twitter Blue. They wouldn't get all the features of being in Twitter Blue, you still had to pay for that, but they were still able to keep a checkmark. A pretty weird system, which just completely destroys the whole point of Twitter Blue being made. We'll get to that point later. And it's basically been like that for a couple of months, until recently. Announcement ended up being basically saying that if you don't pay for Twitter Blue, all your check marks are going to go away. But then when that day comes, absolutely nothing happens. All that happens is that the description of if you click a check mark change. Back then, if you click on a check mark, it will tell you if this guy paid for Twitter Blue or if he was verified back in the day. But a lot of people who paid for Twitter Blue didn't like that, because if you were subscribed to that, you got bullied pretty hard. And people used to make fun of you, calling you just an absolute idiot and dumb, which you are if you're paying for something like that. They kind of just combined the text so you can't do it. But the new next part of the story has basically came out, and the purge has basically began. Anyone who has not paid for Twitter Blue has basically lost access to their checkmark. For a couple of days, you'll see a big content creator who had a checkmark for an extremely long time suddenly don't have it. You could go to someone like KSI or maybe some ordinary gamer, and their checkmark is suddenly gone. It was honestly pretty weird to see someone who, again, had this checkmark for years, just for you to click on it to be absolutely empty. It is an extremely awkward experience, and when you see like a tweet from them, again, you just expect them to have their checkmark, but then they suddenly don't. And that's how it kind of been for a couple of days until now. Out of nowhere, people have been regaining their checkmark. Now, basically, when the checkmark system came away, having a checkmark became something you don't want to have, because now it's confirmed where if you had a checkmark, you paid for Twitter Blue, and you were guaranteed to get bullied. Every content creator who still had a checkmark after the purge, their comment section was just filled to the brim, which is people saying, how could you be this dumb to pay for Twitter Blue? And it was just going for hours. You did not want to have a checkmark at all. It first became a status symbol of you being cool to just being like this act of shame. And I know they're walking around like, oh my god, I still have my checkmark. What did I do? This has to be something extremely bad. They're gonna know I paid for Twitter Blue. They're gonna make fun of me. And they're absolutely right. Until suddenly, out of nowhere, checkmarks just randomly came back. A couple of accounts just had checkmarks reappear who lost checkmarks. Let me use this account for example. This is an account that usually take pictures of like AI images around the internet and will go post them. They lost their checkmark, but out of nowhere, they got it back. And they basically had to go on like damage control mode, because they were going like, guys, I swear, I didn't pay for a checkmark. But then other content creators ended up getting their checkmark back. Like a good example, I'm just going to use Ninja. He was someone who lost his checkmark because I guess he didn't want to play for Twitter Blue, and then out of nowhere he has it back now. now. And it's happening to tons of other content creators. And we're basically wondering what's going on. And apparently, what the theory that is going around is, if you have 1 million followers or more, you now automatically get verified. That apparently seems to be the new rule, which makes absolutely no sense. One thing that I think is insane is that the whole purpose of Twitter Blue when it first got confirmed was to basically stop the whole noble and commoner system that Elon said Twitter has. That all these people who have check marks are super duper important, and their opinion matters more to someone who doesn't have a check mark. But as we all know, and as we see as Twitter Blue went by, the whole purpose of this is they just need to make money, so they decided to do Twitter Blue. There was a lot of content creators and a lot of important people who are just having absolute meltdowns that their check mark is gone. So I guess Elon saw that, and Twitter really cannot lose people. The only reason why Twitter is mega successful is because a lot of people are on there, and if a lot of big content creators start leaving, they're gonna lose a lot of their audience, and especially a lot of younger audience, because no content creators there's no really point to be on Twitter. So I guess Elon saw that some of them got mad and had like this super like reaction, like, oh no, they can't leave. So then he instantly folded and now does this, which now just completely go against the whole purpose of Twitter Blue, because now you are basically saying that if someone has 1 million subs, they're more important than someone who doesn't, and now you really make Twitter Blue useless. You are now proving to everyone that if you pay for Twitter Blue, you're just an absolute sad, pathetic person who just wants to feel important by paying monthly for a service, and 95% of the time, no one cares if you buy Twitter Blue. You're basically just buying a badge to get bullied on the internet. That's basically what you're doing. I just love covering every single time Twitter has like a meltdown, or every single time they make a mistake. Is literally one of the most entertaining things to do. And this is just another one to add on their multiple lists of them making terrible decisions. Anyway, this is just something I want to talk about. My name is Lula. You have a good day or night. See ya.